those of you who earn a good salary in a low-stress job, what do? Story 1. I'm a civilian security guard on an army base in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by thousands of square miles of empty desert. I made 60K this year for watching tumbleweeds and jackrabbits. Story 2. Operator at a nuke plant. Make up to 180K depending on how much overtime I work. If I don't work OT, I'll make 140K and only work 32 to 48 hours a week. It's shift work which can take a toll, but it's a union job, and we're treated very well. It's low stress in a sense, where if you can pass the monthly exams demonstrating your knowledge of nuclear plant operations, you shouldn't be concerned. But if you're not as book smart as the rest of the crew, you can have some problems passing the initial training you receive and the continuing. So moral of the story, if you can pass the training, it's very low stress. Story 3. I install one kitchen per week. I used to try for 2, 3, but the stress isn't worth it, and there's a lot more money in it these days compared to 10, 15 years ago. Edit. Adding some photos to show exactly what I consider a week's worth. Disclaimer. It's not my fault the second is longer than a week. LOL Granite Company. Milano with lights temporary island until granite is ready. The island is a special order, and the worktop is meant to continue down the sides and back, so it's due next week. Story 4. Firefighter. When I say low stress, I mean that when my shift is over, I don't have any looming deadlines or unfinished work waiting for me the next day. When I'm working, there can be moments of pretty high stress. It's not chronic stress though, just bursts of occasional crazy high stress. Story 5. Barber for 18 years. I started off in cosmetology school and went back to be a barber. Woman's hair is fun for a while, but I love cutting a fresh, sharp fade. Story 6. Summer job? I was a tree planter all through 9 years of school. After a few summers' experience, I was making about 16Ks and spending almost nothing in 2 months. If you can handle the weather and have the right attitude, it was no stress at all. Wake up, eat, put trees in the ground, eat, sleep, repeat. Now that I have a master's and 15 years experience in my real job, I still don't make quite as much as I did back then. Edit for those interested. I spent 5 summers in Ontario and 4 in BC. Don't go to On. Much worse conditions and lower tree prices, but I still made 5Ks in 2 months my first summer, 98. Pretty good compared to anything I could have done in the city. The southern interior of BC is where it's at. Good weather, laid-back atmosphere, at least on my crew, and beautiful scenery. You get paid per tree. 7.1 and 2 to 32 cents per tree was the range I saw throughout my career. So the more you plant, read, harder you work, the more you make. There's a pretty steep learning curve, so your first year or two, you will feel like you're busting your for peanuts and swear the vets are cheating to be putting in the numbers they claim. It gets much better with experience. The type of tree and land you're planting affect the price. Just because you are getting a high price per tree doesn't mean you are making the most ease. Sometimes I'd be excited to bend over for 20C but not want to get out of bed for 32C. It's not for everyone, as you are normally living in the bush with other like-minded individuals for days, weeks on end. Google silviculture for more information. Story 7. I'm an attorney, civil litigation specifically. The stress is killing me. Or maybe it's the hours. Perhaps it's the debt. I don't know. But I am here to see what comes up. Story 8. I guess my job is not low stress or high paying to most people, but it checks both boxes for me as a single 24-year-old male. I work rural EMS in Canada. My schedule is 96 hours on, followed by 96 hours off. In other words, I work for 4 straight days and then get 4 days off. I live in a big city, but the town that I work in is 1 hour and 40 minutes away. So my commute is not terrible when you consider that I only need to make the drive once every 4 days. When I am actually at work, I can do whatever I want as long as we don't get a call. My company sets us up with a nice staff house, satellite TV, Wi-Fi, and a decent gym. I spend my days playing video games with my coworkers. There are 4 of us on shift, watching TV, movies, cooking, eating, working out, taking a nap, shooting with my coworkers, etc. If we do get a call, we have 8 minutes to respond. So I can lounge around in pajamas all day if I want, and if I need to run an errand in town, I can usually get it done without getting more than 8 minutes away from the station. The calls can be kind of shitty, lots of highway accidents and farming accidents, but I find the really shitty ones are few and far between. Most calls are just driving people who don't feel well to the hospital. But I do enjoy the tough calls because they challenge me to make quick decisions and use my skills. In 96 hours, we usually average about 5 to 6 calls. However, I have literally worked 96 hours without a single call on more than one occasion. Regardless, I never take the work home with me. I make around $70,000 per year with good benefits, and there are lots of opportunities to pick up extra shifts, which are paid at double time. Story 9. College Professor. If you find a field you love, you get to talk about your favorite thing for 15 hours a week, earn the income of a full-time job, and get several months off a year. Quotes because you use that time for grading and prepping stuff for the next semester. And of course, you work longer than 15 hours a week, but what that work consists of varies widely. If community college, it's pretty chill, mostly meetings and waiting for students to see you. Research positions vary in responsibilities. Specialized schools could be chill or more demanding, but there's potential for the majority of your time outside the classroom to be up to you and how you spend it. Story 10. I am a medical radiation technologist. I think my job is one of the least stressful. We don't work long hours like nurses and doctors, and only main priority is to take diagnostic images of patients. But once we're done, they are taken away by porters, so we spend little time on patients. At the end of the day, when we finish our hours, we just head home and relax. I find it a relaxing job, gets easier the better your skill set, and there's usually people to help you. This is strictly for X-rays only, not CT or MRI, of which is more stressful since you're on a schedule. I kinda like my job. Story 11. I'm a teacher and stressed out constantly. Individualized lesson plans for 20 students, 4 subjects a day, 5 days a week, evaluating data, searching for supplemental materials, adapting crappy curriculum, using buzzwords for the admin, pacifying parents, record keeping, etc. My students are 5. It shouldn't be this way. Story 12. I'm a PA for a really high-end real estate agent. First few months was stressful, constantly trying to work out how he operates, but now I have it worked out. I get everything done in advance for him and spend most of my day chatting with others in the office, drinking coffee, and going on Reddit. I fucking despise working. I've always hated it. I thought I would grow out of it, but at 27, I just seem to dislike it even more. So to find a job that I can be excellent at with minimum effort and stress that pays me well is a fucking dream. I also start early and don't take lunch, so I'm home in good time to my doggo. Story 13. Green coffee buyer. I decide what coffee our roastery buys. The TLDR is, roast some coffee samples, taste some coffee samples, pick one. Occasionally travel to origin countries. It's chill. Story 14. I'm a truck driver. Home every day. Just listen to music and watch the sunrise. Make about 80K. Could make much more if I put in the hours. The worst is having people complain about you existing. Just gotta have a M mentality. I wouldn't recommend truck driving to others, though. It's very hard to get a good paying job. I got very lucky and had a home daily company hire me the moment I got my commercial driver's license. Long-haul drivers actually make less than home daily drivers, which nobody seems to understand. Story 15. Senior accountant for an oil and gas company. It is kind of a small family-operated company. The president of the company takes very good care of the employees and their families in terms of compensation, bonuses, and benefits. Unlike other larger oil and gas companies that have been hit hard in recent years, this one is still very much in the black. Make no mistake, the actual work is very busy and fast-paced. My career has advanced pretty fast here, going from knowing nothing about oil and gas industry to being one of the 3 most senior accountants here in just a few short years. Always something new to learn and skills to advance. Really, it's not just the career role itself that makes it low stress, but the place you work as well. The respect the company and people here have for each other is a rare find. Everyone loves their job, and the company is always pushing and making good on the ideal that employees are their biggest asset. Both people above and below me are highly talented, respectful, and very easy to work with. I have to work a weekend every once in a while, from home, just to be sure my duties are done to the best of my ability. However, for the most part, I go in at 8 a.m., leave at 5 p.m., and my job ends there. Very flexible, can work from home, or leave early. The trust here that everyone is busting if a big part of that. Dream job. After years of jobs inside and outside the field after graduating college. Got really lucky. Story 16. On-site, on-call technician. 95% of the time, nothing is going on. When something breaks, it's usually back online in about 20 minutes. Maybe 5 days a year, you need to work on something all shift. Rest of the time, you monitor the system and find other things to do, like learn how to code and automate the boring part of the job. Story 17. Deckhand on a tugboat in New York. $385 a day. Next promotion to mate is $580 a day. Captain is $670 a day. We live in the boat and go up and down the East Coast, mostly the Northeast, for 2 weeks. Then we get 2 weeks off of work. Most of the time, we eat free food and watch the SAT TV. I bring my Xbox and play a couple hours every day using my phone as a hotspot. Literally straight chilling for 2 weeks with friends. Oh yeah, full benefits me 401k math $1 for $1 up to 6% starting. Story 18. Friend of mine makes $45,000 a year in marketing. His entire job is making a newspaper TV internet ad, saying, who would like to try a new product sitting on his butt for several days waiting? Then, when people respond, he sorts them by if they qualify or not. Guys can't test women's deodorant, etc. That is the end of his job. Everything else is done by another group. He has hours of paid free time he uses to code and do side projects. He went to school for 8 years for math to get this job. Story 19. Just so you know, low stress does not always equate to low effort. Anyway, my official job title is senior producer, but it should probably be wearer of many hats. In a given day, I write, shoot, edit, and produce between 7 and 12 unique videos, along with all of the associated assets, splash screens, and tie-in media. Said videos are then published to a handful of sites, after which I prepare and disseminate just over a dozen newsletters. Once that part is finished, I do back-end maintenance on a few of the pages in question, followed by some light community management. If I'm lucky, I'll get 15 minutes to rush out, grab lunch, and make my way back to the studio, after which I'll devote myself to editing the stories that our writers put together. That's followed by a focus on whatever one-off projects might be in the pipeline, which usually includes a fair amount of asset creation or adjustment, and a final look at the documentation associated with any of the above endeavors, which I'll update as necessary. When I finally leave at the end of the day, I'm exhausted. It's a lot of work, but I'm happy with the fact that I have creative control, and I'm pleased to be making something with an immediately visible end result. And most importantly of all, I'm not bored. For me at least, there's nothing more stressful than boredom. TL.dr. I'm an overworked producer who likes to stay busy. Story 20. I am an illustrator, but as senior producer pointed out, low stress does not equal low effort. I am always polishing the craft, regardless if I am being paid or not. See. Story 21. It's a good wage, not a good salary, but I drive a garbage transfer truck at night. My total package is over $120,000 a year, but it's heavily weighted towards benefits like lifetime retiree medical coverage and pension. Story 22. In-house graphic designer for a pretty large retail company. We stay busy, but there isn't any of the stress that comes from working at an agency and having to please several different clients or worrying about getting enough work as a freelancer. Story 23. I own a bar, restaurant, catering business, small farm with my brother. We just stand all day long in one of the locations, usually a few hours in each. Work is pretty minimal. Story 24. I ultrasound hearts and vascular systems in a doctor's office for 35 HR. Super laid back. If you're fast enough, half your time is free time. I manage to trade stocks, read, learn something new, keep extra time filled with something interesting, etc. Edit. Your edit too. Just got a raise, so now I'm doing ultrasounds for 40 HR. Story 25. YouTuber. I make 180k YR for effectively 25 hours week of work. However, I'm usually closer to 40-60 hours a week because I really want to grow and I enjoy my job. My channel is about my hobby, so honestly, making videos is pretty fun. Story 26. I sit behind a desk and design DIY home theater and automation systems. People send in their floor plans and I put little speaker, TV, etc. images where they should install stuff. And I troubleshoot the systems over the phone too. Easiest money I've ever made, and I get paid good. Story 27. Ooh, art. That'll be fun to draw pictures and goof around all day. Being a graphic designer sure would be a gravy train to Reclinerville. Now I'm a creative director. 12-hour days, looming deadlines, hundreds of emails, high blood pressure, and anxiety. Fuck that. Story 28. Lol, this is why different than most of the other comments on here, but I make upwards of 120 a day just delivering pizza for Domino's in an incredibly affluent area of North Texas. Basically getting paid to drive around and smoke, it's amazing. Story 29. Software QA. Pays about the same as developers, unless you are top-tier, specialized, but way less stressful. Also, the hardcore programming autistics don't enter this field since it's not actual coding, so competition for good jobs is less. Most just run, write tests, and tell nerds they are doing things wrong. Story 30. I work midnights as direct support professional for people with developmental disabilities. 90% of the time I'm on Reddit, or drawing, or watching movies. Most of the time the guys in the group home are sleeping. It doesn't pay anything like amazing, but $10. 25 plus benefits isn't at all bad when all I have is a GED and a few hours of training. Some people couldn't do it. Too nervous around people who are definitely not neurotypical. One of the guys right now a few feet away is just rapidly rocking in the recliner as he watches TV and occasionally making noises, which I just realized would freak a lot of people out. Story 31. I teach English in China. 12 hours a week, roughly 2,700 USD a month, almost all living expenses all paid, one return flight a year, 3 months off a year, but I'm paid for 11 months. I know I'll never get rich, but I make way more than I could spend. Considering the cost of living here, I could easily save 2,000 US a month. I have plenty of time to pursue my hobbies. Even my time in the office is very relaxed. My classes are so basic. Story 32. I make the Coca-Cola products that go into the freestyle machines. 60K plus with overtime. We make 1 to 3 batches per shift, and that's just following a recipe. Very little stress as we have few chances to make mistakes. I have a lot of downtime as well. Story 33. QA/QC on electrical and mechanical projects. It is simple. Read the original proposal and the 100% specifications and don't let the subcontractors waver from them. Keep the customer happy by showing them you are all about giving them what they paid for. It has its moments where it can get pretty hectic, but 90% of the time it is laid back and stress-free. I am noticing QA seems to be one of the main jobs on this post. Story 34. Got my master's and luckily enough, a friend of a friend just then needed someone who could do data analysis. So I moved to a small city in a poor state where most men graduate high school with little literacy, numeracy, and end up going to work on farms or doing manual labor. I spend on average about 4 hours a day doing pretty basic calculations in Excel and get paid twice the average income for this town. It has its plus and minuses. I meet tons of interesting people I wouldn't have otherwise come across, and I have a very different perspective now on what I used to consider success. But it's also lonely and have a hard time relating my life to those of people I meet. Story 35. I'm a contracted services inspector at a major university. 65K a year to do a couple of custodial inspections a day and ride my bike around campus the rest of the day. Story 36. Petroleum geologist. 6-figure salary right out of school for a 40 HRWK job. It still involves some stress because of how much money rides on my educated guesses, but for the most part, us geologists love what we do and don't stress a whole lot. Story 37. I'm a car man. I inspect and repair freight cars. Most of the time, work is laid back and easy. Sometimes I have to work in conditions like a heat wave, or torrential rain, or freezing temps. Sometimes I have to lift heavy stuff or do sustained hard labor. But those days are rare. Stress only comes when the yard is fucked and the yardmaster wants us to magically unfuck it, or when managers come snooping around to try and get you in trouble. Again, rare days. The job suits me and pays me enough to be comfortable. My schedule sucks, but they are hiring, so I'll finally have some seniority. Story 38. I work for one of the world's largest board game companies. Most of my job is granting studios in other countries access to our files so they can translate them, sell them to their country's retailers, and then pay us a royalty. I get to go on trips to check out their studios to make sure they are up to the job, go to a lot of game conventions, and literally am required to play games with the coworkers I love at least a couple times a week. The benefits are great, and being only 2 years out of college, the work experience and salary are good. Story 39. Data analysis for a local branch of a very large national healthcare provider. Began via a temp agency, then hired on for 8x what I was earning in retail after a decade. Story 40. What's the best job for someone with social anxiety? Average anxiety. No apparent cause. I just get anxious out of nowhere. Trouble when it comes to do math. Elementary school trauma. My brain freezes when I have to do math in front of people. And severe depression. So far, I have worked at flower shop, factories, hate those, restaurants, housekeeping, and call center. They all ended with me having a breakdown because of the stress, anxiety, and the fact that I feel so miserable at the end of the day for hating my job. It's very important to me that I find a job that I can enjoy. Not hating what I do would be a huge step. I know I am the problem and I need treatment and professional help, but I need the money in order to do so. You guys have any ideas? Story 41. Stress lessens with age. I work from home now, which counts for a lot less stress. Plus, I know that my job is really quite frivolous. I edit reality TV. Story 42. Swimming pool repair. I get paid by the job, not by the hour. If I want to around all day, I do. If I want to make a shitload of money, I bust my all day. I get to make my own hours. I quote my own prices. I knock off early for a matinee or for beers with friends whenever I want. I average about 75K ER. Story 43. Data analytics. Today, I make 75K plus salary. in a market where 250K buys 3,500 SQFT. Good benefits? Working MF 7330 from home. Haven't worked a weekend or night or more than 40 hours in years. No commute, no traffic, no office drama, no dress code. No degree, no special training, just an eye for patterns and fascination with data. Started my career 13 years ago doing outbound telemarketing for a credit card company. Nights and weekends for $9 HR. Basically the first job I could find with health insurance. Just about once a year, I looked for something that was a little bit of a stretch. Move for a raise. Master the job, move again. Going to school now for a degree only because my work will pay for it. Story 44. I work as a landman in the oil and gas industry. While that title is sort of all-inclusive and covers a ton of different jobs, I spend most of my time researching the history of property to see who has owned it for the past 150 years and what they've done with it, e.g., are there mortgages, oil and gas leases, easements, etc. Oil and gas companies want this information so they can determine who to lease pay when they drill for oil. All of this information is available in county courthouses, so I spend about half of my time there reading old documents. The rest of the time, I'm able to work from home. It's a very chill job. I don't really have a boss. No one really bothers me when I'm working. And courthouses can be almost like libraries sometimes. It's also a very rewarding job because you're sort of figuring out a puzzle and get to see something through to completion before moving on to your next project. There are sometimes deadlines and priorities, but they're never too bad for me and I always hit them. It can also get stressful when there's no work or you have to move around, but I still think it's worth it. Generally, most people have a degree, but not always. It's very much an industry that still relies heavily on networking, and I know several people who do what I do and make great money without a degree. I've made over 100K a year for about 5 years now, and I've only been doing it for 7. If anyone is curious about becoming a landman, feel free to PM me. Story 45. IDK. If my job counts, I work in a creche. It's impossible to be stressed when you do nothing but play all day long, and I earn more than my husband. Story 46. I make YouTube videos. Spend 8 hours a week, make 80K a year, and growing. Note, I'm also a full-time university student, so I still have a lot of stress. Story 47. I'm an independent contract courier. My job is to drive to a list of animal hospitals, pick up samples of blood, urine, stool, biopsies, etc., and then transport them to a medical laboratory for testing. I make $240 a day, just driving around in my car. Story 48. I work as a package handler at UPS, and there is no responsibility placed on you other than safety, but it pays $10. $20 an hour for essentially working out, lifting boxes. Story 49. Trade crypto. 2 monitors, one for tabs and apps, the other for video gaming, personal, rec cannabis garden, and other hobbies that I get to indulge in while taking well-earned breaks throughout the day. What a time to be alive. Story 50. I manage a team of rocket scientists. The work is challenging, and the deadlines are tight, but the people I work with, both up and down the corporate ladder, are passionate about what they do, are resourceful and respectful, and really take care of each other. As you might imagine, the work is incredibly rewarding too. TL.dr. For me, it's all about the people I work with. Story 51. I'm a student in university. How I make money? By signing up for all kinds of student boards. Turns out universities are more than willing to pay students to show up once in a while and voice their opinion, especially if it's government-funded, because the budget needs to be spent at the end of the year. I'm more than willing to receive some of that money. Thank you very much. Story 52. To those of you who earn a good salary, straightens tie. It's May time to shine in a low-stress job. Well, never mind. ITT. Possible new careers that are less stressful than DevOps. Story 53. I worked as a barista at a local bakery charge cafe chain. I made a bit over 12 an hour, plus an additional 6 an hour in tips. I worked 40 a week, and most of my time was spent talking to cool people, making lattes, and sometimes washing mountains of dishes, which I actually do enjoy. I made bank, then I screwed up and took a promotion. The stress tripled and the salary did not. I ended up burning myself out pretty quickly and left the company. Story 54. My full job title is Export Compliance Executive at a medical device company. Sounds fancy, but in reality, a distributor asks for a document which has already been compiled by someone else. I just copy and paste. It's fantastic. Story 55. I'm a program coordinator for desk operations at a large university. Essentially, I manage all of the desks in the dorms on campus. This entails lots of student employees whom I relate quite well with at my ripe old age of 22. The job is mainly email chains and meetings with an occasional difficult conversation. I get university benefits, pretty great, and just under 40K. To be fair, my cost of living is dirt cheap. Story 56. I work in health insurance. I've been there for 9 years, so the raises add up to a decent salary even though it's basically a data entry job. I pull in 5 hours of PTO per paycheck, which will get bumped up to 8 next year. I work from home, so I gas up my car about once a month. I get to go for a walk every morning with my wife and our dogs. I cook all of my lunches, so I almost never blow money on eating out. I play Skyrim on my lunch breaks. I watch YouTube and Netflix while I work. I wear jeans and a t-shirt every day. I get to chill with my dogs and cat while I work. I never have to stress out about scheduling someone to come over and work on something at my house. I just let the dude in, get back to work, and pay him before he leaves. I don't have to maintain my own PC for work either. They gave me one to keep at home. December and January is the most stressful time of year at my job, and even then, I sometimes forget they pay me to do this stuff. Story 57. I am a dog walker in Los Angeles. I see the same 10 dogs every day, every week, so it's like I have 10 dogs of my own. Since my clients are dogs, they are always happy to see me, which I will never take for granted after years and years in retail. I get to be outside in the sunshine, listen to lots of podcasts, and I'm walking all day. I'm no Rockefeller, but I work part-time and it pays the bills and gives me a little extra money to play with, so I am very grateful. Story 58. I don't know if it's a good salary, but I take home about 30 odd chase and tips dealing poker. My paychecks are usually $200, $300 every other week, after benefits and taxes are paid for. You can take home over 5K a month just pitching cards to people and putting up with their whining. The job has completely worn me down, 12 years. But there's zero stress involved with it. Story 59. I'm a public library clerk in a master's program to become a librarian. I'm well aware librarianship is not exactly known for its stunning salaries, but my wage is definitely higher than average, and my job is with the city, so, despite the corruption, it is highly secure. I also genuinely love my work. I help people acquire knowledge and resources, and I'm surrounded by books and media. What's not to love, really? Story 60. I'm a medical transcriptionist. For how stress-free and easy, once you learn the lingo properly, the job is, I think the pay is very good. I work in 3 shifts too, so the pay is even better. Story 61. I'm self-employed, but I guess it still counts. I help small to mid-sized companies to grow their business online, both strategically and operatively. The requirement is that they already have a decent revenue stream and profit. Then, my recipe is very simple. Revamp their website, build content, like blog posts, landing pages, to get more organic traffic plus buy ads, if the data shows it's profitable. The demand is so high that I have set up 4 rules. 1. There shall be no demand that I'm physically present. 2. Clients shall not tell me how many hours I need to work. They should be happy for the hours I allocate for them. 3. There shall be no deadlines. 4. I only take projects that I find fun. I can work from wherever I want, whenever I want. As long as I have some electricity and an internet connection. My clients are happy because I bring in good results that cover whatever they pay me. Some of my clients have internal statements saying, we put our employees' well-being before business. So I never have to feel bad if I take a day off to do something I like. They rather encourage me to do it. I could easily work 300%, but I choose to work half-time. At this point, I should hire more people, and I probably will. But I enjoy my freedom a bit too much still. Story 62. I'm a visitor services coordinator for a small city. I work for the city and help people plan their trips to our region. I also work at the front desk of our museum, Discovery Center most days. It's a fun gig. Story 63. I recently got my job, and I'm really lucky. I work for a university in admin and get about 60K a year and 17% super to respond to emails and the occasional phone call from students who need help. Sometimes it can be tricky issues, but a lot of the time I basically tell them stuff that can be found on our website, like their study dates. Or I explain how to submit forms and send their forms off to be processed. I love my job. Story 64. Digital media marketing. I make okay money, 80K, and work from home. Some days I'll have about 1 to 2 hours worth of work to do, but probably 2 to 3 days a week I do almost nothing. Sometimes I feel bad for how little I work compared to the credit I get, but a large part of my job is reactionary. So I figure, as long as I'm there when I'm needed, then I'm earning my wage. I've also been doing this for 6 years, so I can do it with my eyes closed. I get no joy from it, but it's so easy and I work from home, so meh. Story 65. I'm a copywriter. I write for websites, emails, promotional work, anything really. Incredibly low stress as I love writing and very well paid. Happy days. Story 66. systems administration for a Fortune 100 company. I went from a really high-stress job, putting out fires constantly, doing the work of 3 people in a small company to a large company with a delightfully established bureaucracy that funnels all problem through a process that weeds out stupid before it ever gets to me. Instead of 70-hour weeks, I get paid more for 35 to 40-hour weeks with a few weekends on year. Story 67. I'm a licensed esthetician, aka beautician. I perform skincare, facials, dermaplane, peels, microderm, and waxing services. There's always a calm, serene atmosphere at the spa. Story 68. Teacher for students who don't give a because their parents are rich. It's often frustrating that they just don't want to learn. But then again, pretty easy going because you can reuse old teaching plans without feeling guilty. Parents, students, and administration only get upset when I am fed up and expect at least some of them to do their work. Story 69. Currently doing contract roles in desktop support. I'm not sure if I'm just lucky or great at my job, but nothing breaks and I only really spend 10 minutes a day total fixing things. This email won't send. That's because the email address is incorrect. That sort of stuff. I'm more here for a just-in-case scenario. It's okay, but I miss my previous roles on a service desk being hit with calls for 8 hours a day. I get in, blink, and it's time to go home because it's so full on. The days go pretty slow here, and I end up exhausting Reddit by lunchtime. Although, this thread from yesterday made my day fly day. But for $35 an hour at 21 years old, I can't complain. Story 70. I am a private tutor for all things STEM. I come, I sit with a student for 90 minutes, I go. I charge the equivalent of 60-80 USD per session, which is quite high, but not extremely, for a good private tutor in Israel. My education is a BSc in physics and 12 years of experience. Story 71. I knew a woman who wanted to be a doctor but didn't want to be on call or deliver babies or treat contagious people. She ended up being a dermatological pathologist. It's a job with regular daytime hours and seriously good doctor pay. Story 72. I don't know if I'm too late to wade in on this thread, but I'm a train conductor. Ride trains all day and blow a whistle when it's ready to depart platforms. This makes me 96K, and that's without any overtime. Before this, I was an allied health professional, working high stress for much less money. Story 73. Jobs that are stressful to some people aren't to others. I'm the CEO of a small game developer, and many people would find this very stressful, but I don't. Everyone has their own low-stress job. Story 74. I'm a garbage man. I switch between a 2-man truck and the scale house at the transfer station. Make 50K a year to dump your trash and tell you where you should dump your trash. It's a town job. We're one of maybe 6 towns in CT that hasn't privatized trash collection. Story 75. I work as a sales rep for one of the major tobacco companies. 1. Pay starts around 50K non-commission with amazing health, both mental and physical, dental, vision, and life insurance benefits. Plus, you get a free company car that is completely paid for and maintained by our partner fleet company. And every time you hit 70K miles, bam, new car. You even get to pick the color. 2. Your day starts as soon as you get to your first account, which should be 8 a.m. But if you are a little late, no big deal. Your day ends at 4:30 p.m., 3:30 on Friday, and nobody bothers you to do extra work in the evening or weekends. If lunch goes long, again, no big deal. 3. This is the best part. You maybe see your division manager twice or 3 times a month. Most contact is done over the phone, and it is not uncommon to go a few days without hearing from him/her. This means that no one is hanging over your shoulder, monitoring your behavior, or scrutinizing your work habits. 4. It's non-commission-based outside sales, so there is no quota, and you hardly do any selling because the retailers already want what the company is making. It also means you don't have to be the typical loudmouth salesman type in order to do well in the business. I am the furthest from it, and have been with company for nearly 4 years. All the company wants is for you to show up and put in work. I have never come home feeling bitter or exhausted, and always have energy for fun. If you can get past working for a tobacco company, I don't smoke, then you can have one of the easiest, most secure jobs in the world.